Hello everyone and welcome to the Honest Tea. My name is 𝗖𝗵𝗽𝗁. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am spilling all the tea in this particular season around, it's all about prosperity and prosperity and abundance in all its forms. So not just around money, but, around health and real wealth and freedom and because those are the things. Abundance comes in many forms. It's not just from money, but of course we all are trying to get to our next level, so money is absolutely part of it. And what I want to talk to you today is about what I call your set points. And the thing is that there are so many people out there speaking about abundance, speaking about wealth generation, speaking about how to earn more money, how to get the best body, how to have the best relationships, which are all fabulous, fantastic things. And what I see a lot of is that there is a lot of talk about getting to what I would call your upper set point. So earning more money than you do now, being able to generate more wealth than you do now, having a better relationship, all of those things. But what we don't talk about is that there's also a lower set point, right? So you have an upper limit. So you might have a job where you generate more wealth. So you used to earn, I don't know, whatever it is, 50,000, now you earn 80,000, now 110,000, and so on and so forth. But as you go along, you also are spending all of the money, for example, or you're not able to keep it because you make bad investments, or, there's so many reasons. I used to work for a lady who was a self-made millionaire like 3 times over, and she kept losing it, but then she would make it back. And we hear about people who win the lotto, and then they win the lotto, and then suddenly they're back where they were. And in fact, there are a lot of people, wealthy people in the world, who say that if we redistributed all the wealth in the world and we gave everybody everybody the same amount, that in a few years it would all be back where it was, in 5 years or whatever, it would all be back where it was because of the energy, the set points, and all of that kind of stuff. And that's what I want to help you understand, because so many people talk about manifesting and creating, and absolutely true. But if you don't fix this lower set point, you're not going to be able to get to where you want to be, because you're always going to revert back to this lower set point. So you might generate wealth but not be able to maintain it. You might really have a better relationship where it's really great, but then you can't maintain that relationship. And you might lose a whole lot of weight, but you keep putting it back on again. This is all because you have an upper set point and a lower one, and we're always working on the upper one, but we are not working on the lower one. So today's episode, I think, is more important because everybody talks about manifestation. I'm not going to go through that today because there's lots of ways to generate wealth and abundance and freedom. And we can talk about that another day. But what I want to talk about is when you're able to manifest it and you're generating and creating this abundance in your life, how do you then maintain it and stop reverting back to your lower set point? So why do we have a lower set point? Because and I've talked about this before, because we have that old reptilian brain, because we have our ego, which I also call our protective personality, because we have our nervous system. I'm just trying to use things that you will understand because you've heard them before, and so they will make sense for you. So that's the protector that lives in us that only cares if we are safe. It is the fight, flight, freeze, fawn. It is the autonomic nervous system that jumps in and goes, I don't care if you're happy. I don't care if you're wealthy. I don't care if you have freedom. All I want is to know you're safe. And that's the part of us that dictates our lower set point. So I was really good at getting opportunities. Really, really good at it. You know, you ask any of my friends, you know, my husband and all that. I was always really good when in my career at getting new opportunities, and so I was able to generate wealth for myself. I was able to earn more money, but man, I was so shit at keeping it. Like, honestly, and it's such a money wound. I see a lot of it. So I see where people are able to manifest wealth, but if they have money wounds and old generational traumas and things like that, then they will spend it. And it's because we've not been. One of the things is we've not had it generationally, right? So we don't know how to. We haven't learnt how to utilize money well. We haven't seen it modeled for us, and so we don't have that as a set point. But also because we are often afraid that we're going to lose it, so we spend it really quickly because there's this fear that we're going to lose it, this underlying fear. Or we might covet it, and so I see a lot of people who haven't had a lot of wealth and abundance, they'll ferret it away and put it away, and they're like misers. You know, a friend of mine once said that when her husband opens his wallet, moths fly out, which I think is hilarious. And so there's and then what that also means is, okay, you've got money sitting there, but you never use it and you never bring joy into your life with it. And and money is supposed to give you joy. It's supposed to give you freedom. So, poor mindset is money is for bills. Most of the people who earn a little bit more, sort of like what we would say is the middle class, they think money is to buy things. People who understand wealth and wealth generation understand that money buys you freedom. And we're all ultimately seeking freedom. And for me, the more money I have, the more I give. And so, and I think, a lot of people think that, we even say filthy rich, right? But a lot of people think that people that earn money are not good people, but that's just a load of shit. Of course, there's so many wonderful people who earn a lot of money, who give a lot of money as well, and are very generous and kind. And so, if even that can be a mindset. So what we need to do is to understand how to move, not just our upper set point, but our lower one. And then we have set points around money. It can be around our health. It can be around, so there's a lot of people who will lose a whole lot of weight, for example, and then put it all back on. Or it can be around your relationships, what you accept in your relationship. You might get these amazing relationships sometimes. Like you get a really good partner and it seems really, really good. And then for whatever reason, you self-sabotage it, or that person turns out not to be what you thought. And it's because there's always this lower set point, this point that we keep returning to, because our protective personality, our ego, our reptilian brain, our nervous system, that part of you that is in that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, only cares about safety. So it's like, yes, Ange can earn $300,000. That's totally fine. She can also live off $20 a week because she's awesome like that, and it still keeps us safe. So that's what it is. 300,000 a week. That'd be nice. So that's kind of what it is, right? That's how. So we move our upper set point, but we don't move our lower one, and so that's why you keep losing and getting back to that point. Because I know for me, for example, especially when I had my young family and when I was alone with my boys, I honestly could live off $20, for the week, or sometimes less, sometimes $10, and I've said this before, I used to cook mince, or like I think what people call ground beef in other countries, 63 ways. I'm like so good. I'm so good now at cooking anything from nothing. And I can cook from scratch because I had to. I taught myself how to. And so for a long time, I would earn all this money, but I would easily spend it. And, we still had amazing things. We had, houses and cars and all the things. But, man, I just wasn't not able to maintain it. And there was still this place of like, like, why can't I just have money in my bank? Why can't I just, and then same things, happens with weight and that kind of thing. And then even in my relationship. So my relationship was always great until it wasn't. And there was a point where, we were at a point where we, at one time, I've been with my husband now for, I don't know, something like 28 years. And we were going to separate, we were really suffering together. And that's because we kept turning up in our pain bodies and not being able to, we were great and then we weren't, we were great and then we weren't. And it was because we kept reverting back to this set point. And the set point for me is what I would accept in a relationship from somebody. And I had to move my set point, and he did too. What will I accept? Because, it was like, oh, well, I'll accept this, I'll keep accepting this. And then my set point just kept reverting back to it. It would be like, yeah, we'd work on our relationship and we'd do really great, but then it would be really awful at some point and I would still accept it. So I wasn't moving my lower set point. So then what we need to do is, as we are generating abundance and wealth and happiness and joy and all the things that we're trying to achieve, as we're generating these things, we need to move our set points, right? And really simple example. So if, for example, you would like to lose weight, there's those challenges, like 75 hard is one of them. And man, damn, it is hard. Like it's like, I think it's 2 workouts a day for 45 minutes, and you go on a really strict diet. And I think maybe the part I don't mind, you read a book, which, because I'm a big nerd and I'm a huge bookworm, always have been. Anyway, don't hate that bit. But and it's like, oh, you're not allowed any cheat days. Like, it's so hard, and man, and I've seen people do it, a few people now, and man, they just like are punishing themselves to do this thing. And so, yes, they do it, they lose the weight, and then they put it all back on afterwards. And it's because they haven't moved their lower set point, but also they suffered on the way. So which makes you not want to maintain anything. So, what you want to do is you want to manifest in safety. And what I mean by that is we're teaching ourselves our upper set point. So we're getting up here, oh, I've lost, a little bit of weight, a little bit more, a little bit more. And as I'm losing the weight, I'm also moving my lower set point, because I am teaching myself that if I ever start to gain the weight again, that I'm starting to gain a little bit more than I want to. So I need to just commit to 10 minutes exercise every day. Just commit to making sure I'm allowed to have a cheat meal, but I don't want to have a cheat meal every day. I'm doing 80-20. That's if you didn't know me before, I used to weigh, even though probably people perceive me to be quite a big person now, but I have a dis-ease, or another chat for another day. But anyway, I used to weigh more than 30 kilos more than I do now. And I do 80-20, like, so 80% of the time I do the right thing, 20% of the time I eat way too much cheese and drink way too much wine. So that's my, way that my nervous system can accept this change and can move to my next set point. Now, do I want to go to another level? Absolutely. Then I would have to get to another place where my body and my nervous system, my autonomic nervous system would accept. So I'm not keeping on reverting back, to my lower set point, but my upper weight limit, whatever that is. And then same with money. So if you have a money wound, a lot of us have money wounds. So the way that you can teach your lower set point when you have a money wound, for example, so you might be bringing in more money, but you spend it all, for example. So if you bring in more money and you spend it all, the way that you can change your lower set point is you kind of need to help your nervous system. So what we're always trying to do is help our nervous system, help that reptilian brain, that autonomic nervous system, to understand that we're still safe even when we're keeping X amount of dollars. So you might start by just, one of the things I used to do is I was so good at paying off bills. So I would pay an extra whatever off a bill. Like it might be the next month's worth, or it might be, just start with something that feels okay, $10, an extra $20. And every time you get paid, just pay something extra. And then you might have a little savings account, and you just, as a minimum standard, put away, it doesn't have to be 10%. Everybody says 10%, but sometimes 10% feels too much for people. Do $5, do $10, do $20, do $50, whatever. Doesn't really matter. Something. And then what you do with that set point, right, is it becomes your minimum standard. So no matter what, even when you feel unsafe to do so, you do it, right? So you set a new minimum standard for yourself. So say, for example, you are going to put away $20 every week, no matter what. Even on the hard weeks, you put away $20. You teach yourself the lower set point now, that no matter what, I always do this, right? Once you feel your nervous system feels safe there and it feels good, you're like, I think I can kind of up little. And what you'll notice is your upper set point will move as well. So suddenly you'll start to earn more money. So then you're like, I could probably, maybe one of the things I love to do with in terms of when I manifest more money is I give more money, because I truly believe in reciprocity. And I one of the things that I learned and what I would say to people is I always commit to giving when I'm receiving. Like I truly believe that that's the right thing to do, and I love giving, in whatever way, however that looks. And even when I had very little, I would give. And the reason why I believe that, if you can't give away $50, you're not going to give away $50,000, So if you tell yourself, well, when I get to this point, then I'll start giving away money, that's never going to happen. So, that's something that you could do. So you could start to pay a few extra bills. You could start to, I've said this before, even like buy extra shopping for yourself, or you could start to save a little bit of money, or you could start to give a little bit of more money, like whatever it is. But what you do is you do it even on a bad week, right? Even when it feels hard, because that's how you raise to your next set point. And then same with, say, for example, when you are trying to lose weight. So even on a hard day, you're going to do at least 10 minutes of exercise. Normally you would do 45 minutes an hour, but, when you're really tired, you'll even just do 10 minutes. And that way you kind of raise your set point, if that makes sense. And then in your relationships, it's what you accept even on a bad day. So, talk to whoever it is. I'm talking about, in this particular instance, I'm talking about my relationship with my husband, but it could be any relationship that you have, and I am still working on my relationships, and relationships are a two-way street. So you can't have one who wants the relationship and the other one who doesn't. And I will say, and if you haven't heard any episodes before, I've also had to have bailed out of relationships because I know it's only one way. And so I certainly don't want people staying in relationships, minimizing themselves in relationships, accepting standards that the other person is never going to be able to rise to, or you know what I mean? So we're accepting standards because this person is unable to give us what we want. So, or what we deserve more like. So I don't want you to, so that's one thing. But when you're in a relationship where you're both, in my instance, healing together, working together, wanting to maintain together, and yeah, we've been in a place where, man, we weren't great, then you can start to set your minimum standards. And even on a bad day, you choose a minimum standard. So say you're having a bad day, you have a big blowout argument. And what I always say is, like, when people are arguing, and I tell my clients this all the time, and this is what I believe, is the reason why we yell is because our hearts are so far apart, and our heart is just wanting to be heard. And so we start to yell because we just want to be heard, and we're so hurt, and also, of course, there's models of behavior that we've seen growing up and that we will accept for ourselves because, I saw my dad treat my mum that way, I saw my mum treat my dad that way, and I'm accepting that for myself, and that becomes our wound that we find acceptable. So if we want to change our acceptable limit, we can agree on whatever that is with our partners, and then no matter what happens, if you get into maybe a full-on argument and you're yelling at each other, but you've set a minimum standard that when that happens, this is how we're going to behave, no matter what. And then you choose that if it doesn't happen on even a bad day, what will be the consequence of that, So, for example, I hate waiting. So, back in the days when my husband and I used to argue a lot, so we would argue and then he would just want to leave because that's his nervous system response is obviously flight. Mine is fight. I'd want to keep talking and hash it all out. And then, but he'd leave, and then while he's calming down, he'd leave and calm down, I would be escalating because mine is fight. So I'm thinking, well, how long are you going to be, and what's and I can't believe he's just left me here, and oh man, when that guy gets back, he's going to get it. I'd be ready to go off. But when we negotiated a minimum standard for our relationship, which was that he would leave and we would separate from each other, or I would leave, whatever, we'd separate from each other to give him the space, but we would have a time limit so that I wasn't sitting around waiting. I can't remember what the time limit now was, but maybe it was like a couple of hours. So we would have a time limit, and then he would go and I would know for a couple of hours, okay, cool. So then I would also de-escalate. And then when we'd get together, we'd have this proper discussion without our nervous systems being there, our pain bodies responding to one another, our hearts not being heard. And then we had a new minimum, so setting these minimum set points are really important, and then sticking to them is even more important. And the other way I describe these is as a vote for yourself, and kind of that's what my new book is about, one small vote. And so when you do these votes for yourself, that's how you move your minimums. So my message today is that yes, we want to manifest and we want to create, and we do really great at manifesting these bigger and better and more amazing things. And at the same time, what we want to do is we want to raise our minimum standards so that we're able to achieve our next level in conjunction. So they work in conjunction with one another, and we're not just earning more and losing more, or we're not, losing weight but then gaining it all back, or all of those kinds of things. So I hope that this has been really helpful to you. As you know, the whole purpose of this, or maybe you don't, maybe this is the first time listening, but the whole purpose of this podcast, really, the original purpose of it, is that I believe that we all are gifted. We all have gifts that we've been given from God, from your Creator. It doesn't matter what you say. I'm happy for you to believe in whatever your own personal version of God is, and name that your Creator, whatever you do. But I believe we're all gifted. I believe we all have a gift that we are to share with the world. This is my way of sharing my gift with the world. If you want to know more, you know, what I actually do, what I love to do is I speak and I coach and all those kinds of things. And this is really kind of a passion project for me. The HONESTea is a bit of a passion project for me. And then One Small Vote is kind of what I do, how I generate abundance, and my whole purpose is that I want to help you to step into your gifts. I want you to create more abundance for yourself. I want you to be able to live your best life. And so what I always end with is I want you to be able to heal deeply and lead boldly and live fully. And, you know, keep casting those votes for yourself. Those, you know, it all starts with one small vote. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. I appreciate you more than you will ever know. And that's where I'm going to sign off today. Thank you so much for being here. Mwah.